Welcome to the American Citizens Abroad podcast. I'm Michelle, and today I'm chatting with Anne Michelle Wand, an entrepreneur and an American living in the Caribbean Islands of Panama. Welcome, Anne Michelle. Thanks for chatting with us today.
Hey, good morning. Glad to be here, and thank you for asking me.
We're happy to have you. Could you tell us a bit about where you are from and how you ended up in Panama?
The place I lived longest in my life was Boulder, Colorado. I lived there for 35 years, raised my children there. How I ended up in Panama was I always had a dream to live on a Caribbean island in a house over the sea. Since I was 18 years old, I had a wanderlust and wanted to travel the world. So every vacation I got from every job or business I ever had was focused on visiting warm beaches somewhere in the world and looking for that special place where I would end up.
So you've always wanted to live abroad?
Not necessarily. I mean, I didn't know where I wanted to live, but anywhere in the Caribbean is abroad. And I wanted that clear blue Caribbean water.
And what did your family think about you moving to Panama?
At first, they didn't like it a whole lot. They didn't want me to leave. My sons wanted me to help them with their businesses and grandchildren. But once they realized that it had been my dream and that that was going to make me happy, they supported me.
After leaving the U.S., what surprised you most about living overseas?
I didn't leave the U.S. just suddenly. I visited many places abroad first. I kind of got used to other ways of living since the first time I went to Mexico, and maybe I was surprised then because I saw all the poverty in other countries that we don't have the same type in the U.S., or we didn't used to have at the time I was traveling. By the time that I got to Panama, I was no longer surprised by third world countries and how they live there and what to expect.
Could you tell us a short story about your history as an entrepreneur and how that's helped you realize your current life in Panama?
I've been an entrepreneur most of my life and had my own businesses, and I've had a variety of businesses, starting with a catering service and managing restaurants and owning 2 hair salons. And when my kids were little, when I owned the hair salons and I was a single mom, and I knew that I needed to create more than just income to live on for myself. I needed to create my own retirement account. And the way that I decided to do that was to get involved in investing in real estate. And so I learned everything I could about that and eventually sold my salons and became a real estate agent. At the same time I was helping other people buy and sell homes, I was investing in real estate myself and built up enough equity to eventually sell some of my properties and have the money to invest abroad. And a lot of people just don't sell their properties. You can also just pull the equity out like a home equity line of credit and use the cash to buy something abroad. So that's what I did. I saved up enough money, and it took me a long time. You know, it was almost 50 before I was able to buy a piece of land, and then I wasn't able to build on it for several more years. So my last entrepreneurial venture was opening a real estate franchise in Panama, and I operated that for 10 years successfully. A year and a half ago, I sold it to a nice young couple that are now on fire with it and taking it to the next level. So I'm really happy about that. But what I've decided to do within retirement, because I'm too active to do nothing, is just leisurely build one house or renovate a house per year and sell it. And in the course of doing that, it came to my attention that long-term housing in a certain price range was very much needed here, and that I really could do bigger projects if I had the money. I've got this idea for forming an investor group to the people that would love to diversify by investing outside the country and benefit themselves and also benefit the community, the people, and ultimately the world, because it has a ripple effect with improving businesses everywhere. The idea of the project is to have a piece of land and build 6 condominium units in it and sell those units, operate those for a profit, and then sell the units. And by selling the units, we would also make another source of profit with interest. So the first profit would be made by building and selling each condominium unit, and the second profit would be made by financing to the buyers that are business owners here in Bocas or digital nomads that want to move here. I've had a lot of interest in this, and so there would be interest on the loans with a down payment from the buyers.
What's the biggest difference between the U.S. and Panama? And what's the best thing about being an American in Panama?
One of the reasons that I chose Panama over other countries to move in, and we traveled to many countries before deciding to come here. I thought I would want to live in Hawaii, and that was part of the United States, but I ended up not liking it. It was way too expensive. I also went to Belize, and again, it was beautiful, but too expensive for what we were looking for. I had a limited budget. I was only able to save up a certain amount of money to invest. In Mexico, I didn't trust the government. Nicaragua was still a little bit too wild, wild west for us. But when we came to Panama, it had so many benefits. They have a great pensionado program that's easy to get residency here. You can get it in 4 to 6 months as long as you don't have any felonies. Once you get that residency, if you're over 55, you can get a pensionado discount on many, many things, including professional services like dentistry in hotels and restaurants, and airfare. You can get the pensionado discount. And there's a whole laundry list that I can provide that I can't remember of discounts you get. So that was one really cool thing about moving to Panama. It's also a very tax-friendly country. Panama does not tax any income not earned here. So if you have an online business or you have income from the States, you don't get charged any tax here. And then on the other hand, if you earn income in Panama, and I've done both, had outside income and income here because I had my own business in Panama, including a real estate franchise, the tax rate is very low. It's 25% across the board. So chances are a lot of people will be above that tax rate in the United States. If you're from the United States, they tax their citizens worldwide. So I still have to file a U.S. tax return, even though I'm here in Panama, and claim my income. If I pay taxes in Panama, I deduct it from that. Plus, you can get the foreign income exclusion. I think this year it's up to $112,000 you can earn in another country that you can not be taxed on in the States. So it's really tax friendly to people that want to move here. And there's, of course, a lot of rules about it, how you comply to that. That'll be something for an attorney to explain once you're ready to do something like that. And I'm not an attorney, I'm just telling you the general concepts of it. The other reason I thought it was great is they use the U.S. dollar, so I didn't have to do any currency conversion here. The living costs, even with inflation, it's so cheap to live here. We live on about half of what we did in the States, so that our retirement dollars go further. To me, that was a big plus. Even though I have to travel further to visit my family, in a day I can be visiting my family, and I just go do that. The biggest difference, I think, is cultural. Here, it's primarily a Spanish descent, and the primary language is Spanish, although many, many people speak English, and you don't have to speak Spanish to live here. But the culture is Spanish, and their culture is very different from ours. They talk loud. It's a loud culture. They play loud music. They do things differently than we do in America. And so getting used to that, your first couple of years here, takes some adjustment. And you need to come here not wanting to change them, but embrace the culture.
When adjusting to your new life overseas, did you find support from other American expats or from American expat organizations?
Absolutely. There is a very vibrant expat group here, and it's only grown since I've come here. And they're very friendly, and it's easy to make friends here, and everyone is willing to help you and tell you what mistakes they made so you don't have to make the same ones.
And can we talk more about the American expat community? Who does it consist of?
When I first came here, it was mostly retirees, people that were retiring and wanted to live in a warm climate, particularly the Caribbean. But they wanted to live in a place that was not necessarily as developed as the other Caribbean islands. But now, and this is 20 years later, because I bought my land 23 years ago. We've been living here full time for 12 years. Now it's a mix. It's a definite mix of younger and older people. We have retirees. There's still a big retiree community, but there's also a big influx now of digital nomads because of being able to work remotely. People who are moving here are younger and younger, and they're bringing their families. Schools are opening up because there's a demand to have schools for the children, and all kinds of things are happening.
And what are some of the common issues American expats face in Panama? Where do they find support?
I think people at first are a little bit scared of the health care, particularly in Bocas where I live. We just have a small hospital, so they can just take care of basic issues. But if you have a big issue, you need kidney dialysis or something, you really can't live here. You have to be relatively healthy. So I think some people have concerns about living here. But again, we've made progress in the last 20 years, and now we have things like medevac and worldwide health insurance and all kinds of things that allow people to be more at ease with that kind of issue. You don't really need to worry about it anymore.
Are there any other issues that come up?
You know, since I'm a highly adaptable person and I didn't have a lot of issues come up, but because this kind of lifestyle isn't for everyone. You really have to be wanting to embrace different cultures, even learn different languages, even though you don't have to, and be very open-minded about other people and accepting. Otherwise, you're not going to have a good time here, and you end up moving back to the States.
Do you think you'll want to live in any other countries?
Probably not at my age. I'm 72 this year. And most likely I'm not going to make another move unless it's back to the States because I'm too old to get in and out of a boat. You know, our house is on an island and we're completely surrounded by water. I'm about 1 mile from the nearest grocery store, but it's by boat. So your boat is your car. And so you have to be fairly agile and healthy to live my lifestyle, although there are people on the main island that get around by car and do it a little bit more normally. When I can't get in and out of a boat, I will have to probably move somewhere else.
Any final thoughts you'd like to share?
I would certainly encourage people who have a dream to follow it, no matter what it is. I think that so many people are unhappy following other people's dreams or keeping a job they don't like. And life is short. Follow your dreams. And if it's to move to another country, if it's to retire early, figure out a way to do it and do it now.
Thanks for chatting with us today.
You're welcome.
The American Citizens Abroad podcast is a monthly podcast that is published the second Tuesday of each month. It is edited and produced by me, Michelle, and is a product of American Citizens Abroad. You can find us on Twitter at ACA_podcast, on Facebook at American Citizens Abroad Podcast, or you can email us at podcast@americansabroad.org. Remember, give us a good rating on Apple Podcasts so other Americans living abroad can find us.